أهلا وسهلا بالرجال السفاح شو. Welcome حبيبي.
That doesn't kiss me. I feel like, what is that? Why is he making kisses? He's doing duck faces. All right. We good?
Fighting out of Denver, Colorado, here is Bassil, the Habibi Hafez!
Bassil Hafez immediately in on the takedown attempt. Nearly knocked a cameraman off.
On UFC Fight Pass 4.
That is it!
Come forward hard. Bang.
All right. Bassil, the Habibi Hafez.
Whoa.
Let's try that
Let's
again.
start that over.
Bassil, the Habibi Hafez.
There we go.
Which,
I was going to see if you messed
I'm
it up.
not mistaken, Habibi means the sweetheart.
Yes, sir.
All right. So talk to me about this because
Okay.
we had Cheppy on here a couple weeks ago, and he was telling us about the importance of being cold-hearted. So how do you balance being a sweetheart and being cold-hearted at the same time?
Oh man, I think for one, everyone has to have their own moniker. You know, you have to have your own thing. It's kind of the sweet sport of MMA. It's where everyone can kind of be their own character, their own personality. And for me, my way of looking at it is I never had a nickname before I got to the UFC. I didn't believe in nicknames. It was a stupid thing I would always say was if people can't even pronounce my name, so let's get them to pronounce that right first, and then get a nickname. But you know, when I was getting there and it was that point where I was about to be there, it was really short up to it, like probably the month or two leading up to it, was where I kind of had the epiphany of this is gonna be my nickname. Was because you have to have something that helps people identify with you.
That's right.
At the end of the day, like my name is Bassil. I don't walk around saying, "Yo, call me Habibi, call me the Habibi," right? But to me, what is a Habibi, right? Habibi is exactly what you said, a sweetheart, right? In our culture, in Middle Eastern culture, we call our brothers, our cousins, our family Habibi, everyone. So the love of your life is Habibti, right? Well, for her, she call you Habibi. Habibti, you add the T at the end, and it's feminine.
That's for a girl.
That's for a girl,
Okay.
exactly. Or I don't know, them days. No, she days. I don't know. What? He, her. I don't know. No, cut it.
No.
Them, hey, he, her, her, she, he,
I'm
ha,
not
ha,
gonna
ha.
get into it, but you
He,
keep
ha, she, it, the shit.
Yeah. So you come from...
All right, sorry, back to this.
No, you're
No, you
perfect.
can cut that. Right? All right, wait, so no.
What I'm saying is I wouldn't talk more about that because it's too messy.
yeah.
You say whatever.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you say
I
whatever
don't
you
give a
like.
fuck.
Keep going.
No, but so like the Habibi, like I said, in the Middle Eastern culture, we all call each other Habibi or Habibti, and it's a term of endearment, right? It could be used to mean like bro, or like my buddy, or my friend, or my family member, my brother, my cousin, or my lover. It just has a general term of endearment. And so in general, all my friends call me the Habibi or Yo Habibi. They say Habibi in general. They just call me that, right? Because I'm Middle Eastern. I speak Arabic. I'm the only one in my group usually. So I would say it's a mixture of I've already been being called Habibi or the Habibi, my friends. And to me, it's also a little introduction into my culture because I feel like there's not a lot of Middle Eastern fighters, right? And to me, I want to bridge the gap. I want to bridge the gap between the fans and the culture and the fighters. And to me, I'm the Habibi. I feel like
right.
I'm a good person. I'm a person that cares about human rights, that cares about giving back, cares about helping people in need, and like also going out, fighting your heart out. Giving everything giving everything you have in the cage, giving it your all every single time you go out there, and just giving life every single try you have, a hard effort, a real true effort. Like I got Memento Mori tattooed on my arm for a reason. Like you got to live every day like you might die tomorrow. And,
That's correct.
And that's something that I believe heavily in. So the Habibi is just the kind of introduction into me. I can be that guy. I can be the sweetheart. I can be the nice guy. But I know I have the ability to shut that off when the cage door closes. Because at the end of the day, this is a very like aggressive gladiator sport. And I think sometimes people need to have aggressive monikers or need to show they're this and that. Like I've been through a lot in life, man. I've had a lot of losses. I've had a lot of things that usually would break most people and get people to quit or give up on this goal of being in the UFC. And to me, it's like, man, if you think I'm soft because of my nickname, then that's fine. You can think whatever the hell you want. Like you can look at a piece of paper and read a word and think what you want. But to me, I'm going to show you who I am when I perform in that cage and when I try and knock you out and I try and submit you and I try and finish you. And so that's what matters most to me. The nickname is just a bridge between the fans and the fighter.
That's great. And you have 3 black belts in your family, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man, look at you.
Oh, trust me, there's
This
plenty more.
guy.
And so, who was it first? Was it your cousin that got you into
All right, so
jiu-jitsu?
I'll tell you the story. So actually, what got me into jiu-jitsu was I was always getting in fights, always getting in street fights, and getting in trouble, almost getting arrested. And one time I got in bad
And
trouble.
this is back in Philadelphia.
This is back in, so yeah, at the time I was living in, I think, Upper Darby at the time. I was living in Broomall, and then I moved to Upper Darby, which is right outside of Philadelphia. And then I remember I was getting in fights all the time, and I got in one bad fight where I only hit the guy twice, but I ended up causing some damage. He had to, get airlifted to a big hospital and had some brain bleed, had some issues. They tried to go at me with the full book, and they didn't believe it was self-defense, which is what it was. He came at me first, and at that point, I had just lost my mother to breast cancer. My father was dealing with the whole weight of that, and I think it was a moment of where we were riding down to court after I got arrested. I got in trouble, and they released me. We're riding down to our first court hearing, and it's just me and him. And I just remember just being in the car and seeing his face and seeing how the weight of how it hit him. And I realized at that moment, I'm a grown ass man acting like a child. And this guy, he just lost his wife. He just lost his whole life basically. And he's dealing with all this. Now he's also about to go under with the pizza business because he's falling into debt. And it's I'm over here just adding more stress to his life. And it's why? What's it was kind of an epiphany moment that I need to grow up. I need to be a man. I need to stop being a child.
How old were you at this time?
18. This is when I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah. This is just fresh 18. I turned 18 that year, graduated high school in May. My mother had passed in June, in July. And then the next month, she passed in July. In August, I got arrested in this fight. And then
I think a lot of people don't know this about you, that not only did you lose your mother to breast cancer, but then shortly after that, your father to lung cancer. That's a lot for one man to go through. Yeah. And show your wrist right now. So we know that your mother, tell us about that.
Always with me. Yeah, I mean, I got these done a while ago because I always would carry just a pink wristband. I remember one time, it was shortly after she had passed. It was when I started to grow up a little bit and, had experienced the getting in trouble. And then I started to try to represent her more, represent her spirit. It was something I started to grow up in that short time period, but I also started to realize my purpose more. And what that purpose was. It was to represent her, to be, whether it's no matter what I'm doing, to be successful at it and to show good work ethic and strong will, the way that she was. She would go do chemotherapy and radiation at 7, 8 a.m. and then go work a 12-hour shift at the pizza shop with my father short after, every single day, 7 days a week. We didn't have a day off, and it's something that she instilled in me. It's something I seen her at her worst. I took care of her when she was before she was on hospice, before when it was real bad. And I remember she always would find a way to leave the house, do something, be productive, even at her worst points. And so it's I saw firsthand what someone could be at their lowest point and still be fighting, still be trying to make it, and still be trying to feed their family. And so to me, I don't have any excuse. That's why I'm willing to die on my sword in that cage. I'm willing to die on my sword doing whatever I need to do to be successful, because I saw my parents literally die trying to give a better life to us, to go from being immigrants and moving here, opening a pizza shop and being super successful at it after years, and moving from really ghetto, shitty parts of Chester, PA to nicer parts in Broomall, and living in parts of Philadelphia when I was younger too. So it's kind of I seen the whole cycle happen, and then I can never give up, man. I can never not have hard work, good work ethic, and pay attention to things I need to do the right way. Because to me, it's I've seen it, I know what I need to do, and I know that it's in me. It's in my bloodline, And
Is the Westchester Pizza Cafe still open?
So that is actually my brother's pizza shop.
Okay.
I didn't actually touch on my cousin, so I went right into them.
Please go. If you want to talk more about how you first got started in MMA, I understand you have a cousin that kind of got started in jiu-jitsu.
I was going to say.
And your family wasn't so keen on fighting to start with, but something about him kind of, he started it and then kind of inspired the rest of you to follow?
Not really. So it was, that's close, but... So how I got involved in MMA was shortly after I got in trouble and got arrested and everything. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. At the time, I got in serious trouble, so I was thinking about my record and going to college and how that affects me with getting jobs and everything. And my cousins at the time were training jiu-jitsu at Balance Studios under Ricardo Miglioris. Shout out to Balance Studios and Ricardo.
And what inspired them to get started in jiu-jitsu? Did they watch some old UFC tapes? Did
Yeah. They grew up the more like casual fan route and started training. Like they grew up, they had UFC, they gave it to me eventually, but they had UFC 1, 2, 3 on DVD, you know, like they had the posters, they watched like, you know, Bloodsport as kids and like all the old school stuff. Yeah. Like I didn't watch as much of it growing up. I was actually more like WWF as a kid. I was huge into WWF. Like
I got a story for you.
Insane, bro. I loved it. I had the little action figures. I still have them. Still collect. I still have them. Like I have them in the storage somewhere. But like little action figures and the ring and the walkout and little steel chairs and the microphone. You know how hard it was to get the little microphone?
Absolutely.
Oh man, yeah. I still got this. I was a huge WWF fan, and then growing up, and I watched UFC on Spike, and that's the first time I remember seeing it. Is my parents were super anti-violence. That was one thing. They were super big on like not fighting. Like most Muslim families are big on like non-violence, non-fighting, non-things like that. So like our family was like not much fighting. They weren't fans. My dad would watch soccer. That's the biggest sport, the only sport that he watched. And my mom didn't watch any sports. And so same thing with my cousins, and not much fighting in our family. So like when my cousins, you know, they checked it out. I forget how, I never asked them how they got into it, but I know they got introduced through they did karate growing up, and they got introduced to jiu-jitsu through someone they knew. They tried it out, and by the time that I had got introduced to it, they were blue belts training at Balance Studios. Got in trouble. They were blue belts. They were like, yo, man, you should check this jiu-jitsu thing out. We've been doing it for a little bit. They're like, you got hands, you can knock people out. You might as well just try being a fighter. Yeah. And at first I was like, man, I don't know. I'm not born to do that. Like, I feel like these guys have been doing it their whole life. That's the first thought I had, right? I was like, oh, these guys have been training their whole life since childhood. Like, I just know I could just pick this up now at 18. And, you know, they kept telling me. And then I remember one day I drove. I had packed my car up. Already did orientation for classes at community college. Delaware County Community College, I remember. And then I drove there. On the way there, I had so many thoughts, man. From like, I'm going to school today to like 2/3 of the way there. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking school. I'm not doing this shit. Fuck this. Turned my car around. Didn't even go to class. Drove to, we had Wawa's out there. Drove to a Wawa. It's like a convenience store. Like kind of like you got come and go out here. And got a hoagie, got a sandwich, and then just chilled. Did some other shit, and then went back. So I made it seem like I went to class. And just, you know, try to figure it out. And then I think it was like a short period where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I was like, you know what? My cousins are pushing me hard enough. I'll give it a try. I remember I walked in Sunday. It was like the cross-team training they had at Balance Studios. And this guy, the Animal, is his nickname, Ricardo Miglarice. 6'4", 225-pound, just savage. Like, honestly, the best grappler I've ever gone with, like, bar none. I've competed against Gordon Ryan. Him and Gordon Ryan could have a world-class match at their prime. Like, this guy is good. And I walk in there.
Battle of the Beach?
No, when I went against Gordon Ryan, yeah, Battle of the Beach, yeah.
And he almost got you in a heel hook?
He did. He had me in a deep heel hook.
He was unable to submit you in a heel hook, and you were actually able to fight out of it?
Yeah, I got out of it. He had me like probably the deepest heel hook I've ever been in that I didn't tap. Yeah. Yeah, he had me real deep. I got out, ended up passing his guard, got 2 points, but he had, I think, beat me. It was like 4-2 at the time. He got two 1-point attempts. You just wrap the leg up, they give you a 1-point submission attempt in Naga. Yeah. And then 2 points for full locked-in submission counts as a position. And so I got the 2 for that. So
that must have given you a lot of confidence moving forward.
No, I didn't know who the hell
he was.
I didn't know who the hell he was at the time.
Oh, okay.
He was and what's crazy is I'm going first. The first person in my bracket says Gary Tonin. I know who Gary Tonin is. Of course. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm going against Gary Tonin. I'm like, let's fucking go. Meanwhile, I'm there with no coach. I'm just by myself. I'm just going to compete. I'm a purple belt at the time. These guys are a lot higher level than me, and so some time passes, and then it switches, and it says Gordon Ryan. And I'm like, who the heck's Gordon Ryan? And someone else is like, oh, he's good too. He trains with them. He trains with DDS. I'm like, I don't fucking know who the hell this is. I'm like, all right, whatever. I go in there as a tough match, man. He gave me a tough match. I was like super sleeping on his first time I went against somebody that had really good leg locks, like as good as he is. Sure. And so I completely slept on it. He kept throwing him up. And then one time he got it real deep. I got out. And then so afterwards, you know, he beat me in the first round of the bracket, went on. He ended up losing a decision to DJ Jackson, I think, in the finals. But like, you know, DJ just stalled him out pretty much, I think. But then afterwards, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go beat this guy in the gi then. So I throw on the gi. I go check, and this guy's doing the brown belt. And I'm doing purple belt. I'm like, I'm like, hey, I thought you were doing the purple belt. I want to get that win back. And then he gave me props to getting out of the submission. Awesome. And, you know, at the time, I didn't know who the hell he was. I'm just giving props to a guy who was tough. and ended up going on to win the gi division. Submitted Randall Brown with a standing guillotine that day. Yeah, it was pretty cool because he's tall.
Look at that memory. So I don't want to
Yeah, I
cut you
got
off
memory,
too
baby.
much. That's
I got
very
memory.
impressive, man.
I remember because he spanked me on the butt when he tapped. I hit him with the standing guillotine. He's not gonna like to hear that. I don't care. I don't care.
You can finish that story you were saying about how you kind of took a break. You got your drink on the side of the road. You continued on in your jiu-jitsu training. And then when did you decide to go into like a full-time MMA career?
Also from the jump, I remember I came in, like I said, that Sunday I met Ricardo and I saw him and I was, like my cousin's like introducing me. I'm thinking, see, I'm going in this like everybody's going in that's fresh off it, right? You think you're hot shit. You think you're going in there. People are going to be like, yo, what's up? You're joining the fight team. Like, what's up, man? You think that's the vibe. I would say most fighters think that when you're first going in, right? When you first start trying out fighting. That's my mentality. I went in. My cousin goes, hey, Rick, this is my cousin Bassil. He goes, what's up, man? And then he just walks away. And that was it. And he goes back to training and just beating the shit out of people, like just mercilessly. And I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to earn my respect. I got it. Like, as it should be, And so I remember I started at Balance, then made a quick jump over to Factory X. And that's where I really did the beginning of my MMA training. Because when I was at Balance, I was just doing the jiu-jitsu in the beginning. Say 6 weeks into it, my cousin was telling me about Fight Factory, and there was Zach Makovsky that was there, Eddie Alvarez, the Martinez brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of Bill Algio would come and train with us. There's a lot of big names that were there, and so he was telling me about it. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go check it out. Balance is expensive at the time. I didn't really have a relationship with him, and so it was a lot cheaper. It was like half the price to go to Fight Factory. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go there. So I went over to so I was training at Balance at the time, and I was doing the basics program. I couldn't really afford the full-time membership because I didn't have a relationship at the time. I wasn't a full-time fighter. So my cousin Rami, shout out to him. He was one of the first people that introduced me. Him and my cousin Adrian, both blue belts at the time. They're like, you should check out Fight Factory. And I was like, what's Fight Factory? And they're like, yo, man, they got some of the best fighters in the city over there. If you want to do some real MMA, you want to focus fully on that. I was like, all right. Went over. I remember the first day I walked in, I was getting eyed up by everyone. Like the desk there is like, oh, fresh meat. And I remember walking in, and past that day, I just fell in love. It was just a great gym, great people. Stephen Haig, who run it with his wife Michelle, they were just like top notch, really like straightforward people. And so it was just a vibe from the start. And I feel like I was gritty, I was tough, so I just kind of worked my way in.
That's awesome.
And I was with Fight Factory with those guys for probably the first year and a half, 2 years of my career. Did my amateur debut with Stephen Haig and Fight Factory, and then jumped over to Balance full time, and then was pretty much at Balance up until I came here in Colorado.
Yeah. And you like pulling pranks.
Oh, I love pulling pranks.
What is the best prank you've ever pulled? Let me try that again. You like pulling pranks.
Yeah.
What is the best prank you've ever pulled?
Oh man, there's a few good pranks
Hit
I've
us.
done. I have some ones that I can't really talk about. As a kid, you used to do like shit in a bag and light it on fire.
Sure.
I can't talk about that. All the stuff like that. But as an adult, I got a couple friends on the fight team. One of them, I'm gonna break the prank to you now because I never told you that I did this. But Feats, Anthony Adams. What is it? I put a bumper sticker. I put a bumper thing on his trunk that was like, this car frequently stops at gay bars. But he never said nothing about it. I forgot about it. This is like weeks ago. I don't even know it's still on there or not. It might still be on there, and then now you find it out. And then also I got Harris Talunzig with only gay cops pull me over bumper sticker. And that was on there for a good week or two.
I'm sensing a theme. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is when people are homophobic or gay joke, I'd like to fuck with them even more on that, So it's like, whatever bothers you, I'm going to bother you more with it.
Do boring things to be great. Elaborate on what that means.
Do boring things to be great.
So I was listening to an interview with you recently, and you said you need to do boring things to be great.
Okay. So out of context, I was like, boring things to be great. You have to do the things that you don't want to do, whether it's like the technical stuff, the drilling work, the things that are tedious, the extra time even in doing it. I mean, you do a little bit and you think you did enough. That's all boring, right? It's tedious. But that's where you create the world champion. That's where you create the really world-class talent, is doing all the things that nobody wants to do. That's boring, you know? It's boring and tough, creating a world-class athlete or creating a top-notch company, like a Fortune 500 company. It's or anything. It's tough doing all that. Nothing is easy. Nothing is given in life, right? But that's what makes you achieve that. Nothing's just handed to you. So the boring work that makes it hard and that makes it not want to be done by 99.9% of the population, that's the work you have to do to be able to be successful. And so just focusing more on that and different ways you could do it and different ways you can improve at it. Like, I think a perfect example is a knockout I had, right? A knockout I had, my first pro KO that I had under Justin Houghton in pound for pound Muay Thai. He did a great job of like really getting me confident in my striking, getting me confident to do the things that I can do, right? And his timing is really good. He understands all these aspects of boxing and movement, right? That I really enjoy. I feel like it's hard to find a coach that has that, right? But a lot of these things, I did the years of tedious work in Philadelphia with my original coach, my striking coach, Ajarn Andy Russell. He's an Ajarn. He's above a crew. He's one of the best Muay Thai guys in the world, and especially not even just with Muay Thai when it comes to boxing. I mean, he's got a boxing world champion. He was Ben Henderson's original coach when he won WEC world champion, and when he was UFC champion in the beginning. He was also has Muay Thai world champions as well. I mean, he's a guy who I'd say 99.99999% of people have never heard of because he wants it that way. When picture time comes up, putting gloves over his face. When it comes to interview, I'm good. When it comes to sponsor shirts, I'm good. He's not about that. He's never been about that. He's a guy who just goes under the radar. But I tell you what, you sit in a room with him and you listen to his striking technique and the knowledge that he has and way he can apply different angles to you and understand why you could draw somebody in here, but you can't do it in here. It's just things that I feel like I maybe took for granted early in my career, but I didn't realize it until later that I've absorbed all these things, because it's like, if you look at my striking in my early game, my earlier amateur career, early pro career, not much going on there, right? More recently, you see me doing it a lot more. And you see me opening up. This is where I'm doing this with Justin. I'm throwing more combinations from different stances, from switch stance, from open stance, from southpaw, from orthodox. But all that striking technique, all that, the years of tedious work, I got videos on my phone, 45 minutes I'm videotaping a session. The other thing that people don't want to do, they don't want to videotape themselves.
Watch tape.
They don't want to videotape themselves hitting the bag. They don't want to videotape themselves shadow boxing. Nothing. They can't look at themselves. They say, I can't look at myself. It's weird. It's weird. Okay. If it's weird for you, then don't be great. But I'll tell you what the great people do. They watch themselves. They analyze themselves. And they see, okay, I don't like when I do this. And I got to stop doing that shit. And that's what helps you be great. That's the boring shit. It's all that. It's A to Z.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
What piece of advice do you wish someone had given you 5 years ago that you would now like to give an up-and-coming fighter?
focus on just fighting. Fight more often. Find out the kind of fighter you are, what your style is, what you enjoy, and just fucking run with it, I think either one or two things happens. In the beginning, you try to be great at everything too fast and too much, right? Or you never really break out of your shell because you just maybe go to the well too much of what you're only good at, one thing or this thing, or you just don't really go out of your shell when it comes into fighting. You don't really sit in there and square up, right? Throw punches and have punches come at you. That battle, that it's like a sword fight. It really is. When you have a guy, we have two skilled technicians who can knock each other out. They both have the power in their hands. No one's questioning that.
Right.
And they're both throwing 5 3-punch combinations mixed with takedowns and kicks and knees and feints. It's a sword fight. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't get enough sword fights. They either get close to the sword fight, right, and then they go for a takedown or they duck away, right? Or they maybe will sword fight too hard and they fucking they break their sword, they break their iron, and they make their sword too dull, and then they can't really practice the technical part of it. It's like getting more of those sword fights, but controlled. More background in it, and then you can really understand yourself as a fighter. Like, okay, when I'm in this position, someone's throwing punches at me, I freak out, and it's like a lot of times, like, example, right? Volkanovski, Ilya Topuria. I saw a breakdown. It was really good, talking about how the knockout happened. It wasn't just a chance. It wasn't a lucky punch. It was Topuria baiting him, right, and getting him to circle. And when he circled with him, right? And putting him in a position where he only has 2 ways to go. You either have this way out, or you could shoot a takedown, or you could clinch. And he tried to go backdoor out and got knocked out. And so it's like creating more of those. Like, you have to practice that. You have to practice. You have to do it more. You have to find the finishes in the gym, find the finishes in the cage. You have to look for it more. And it's like, that's more of the practice that you have to do, I feel like.
Hard times create... No, it was really good. It was really good. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times.
Amen.
Where are we?
Where are we? Oh man, I just like that whole quote. I love that quote.
It's one of my favorites because looking around, I would definitely say that the generations that came before us have made life so easy for us right now that we are gearing up for more hard times.
Depends on how you look at it. In which way? I feel like in some ways they made it harder, in some ways they've made it easier, right? If you're talking about inventions, they made it easier. We have less things to invent, but it's harder because now less people can be successful in that field, right? Now they've made it more understandable how to get a house and how to do things, but it's less achievable to buy a house now. So much harder to do. You know, it's like 1,000 times harder since this pandemic. But like, so I think that applies in some ways, right? I think back to the quote you talked about, I think it depends on who you are. Depends on who you are and what situation you create for yourself. Hard times create hard people. I think if you put yourself through that shit, you put yourself through the hard stuff, then yeah, you're going to create a tougher person, a better person. If you don't want to, face the hard times and you want to, lollygag, then you're never really going to improve as a man or as a person. It's like go back to a blacksmith shop, sharpening the sword.
That's right.
You have to beat the shit out of it a little bit. You have to put it through some work to sharpen that. You can't just expect it to sharpen by just petting it.
Have you taught Bruce Buffer any Arabic yet?
Not yet. Michael Martinez, I did teach him some Arabic because I'm the first Habibi he announced. But very soon I will have a Bruce Buffer announcement, hopefully.
So here's some rapid fire questions for you.
Let's do it.
So on these ones, you can't think or You have to immediately answer.
What if it's question? Or
The first thing that comes to your head, you have to answer.
All right, fuck, here we go.
So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. 3 best exercises for cardio.
Airdyne, swimming, wrestling.
First 3 fights you remember watching on TV.
Ooh, the first one was Roger Huerta and Clay Guida on Spike.
That's a classic.
That's the first one I ever watched. There you go. That's the one I was telling you about on Spike. That was it. At a friend's house, I was like, "Oh, what is this? Oh, you guys go. I'm watching this."
And what's the second?
The second was Chuck Liddell knocking out Tito Ortiz. Yeah, I was a huge Chuck Liddell fan.
And the third?
I don't even remember the third. I'm sorry. I think it was another Chuck Liddell fight. I think I saw that knockout. I was like, well, let me look more about this Chuck Liddell guy.
All right. Besides GSP and Chuck Liddell, who are your 3 favorite fighters?
Okay, Khabib, GSP, and Chuck Liddell. Yeah, and for different reasons. Each one has their own reason why I like them.
3 most important skill sets to have in order to be a successful athlete.
Work ethic, discipline, and passion.
You said earlier in your career that you didn't think that you'd make a career out of fighting, but you wanted to be a professional athlete. If you hadn't found MMA, what sport would you be playing?
If I hadn't gotten arrested and
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to be when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pro football player. I was pretty damn good at football.
Soccer or football?
No. So American football. American football. I was very good at that. And then wrestling I was really good at. But outside of sports, I never thought I'd be a fighter. But I wanted to be a physical therapist. I wanted to work with athletes. I wanted to help athletes. That's what I wanted to do.
You think that's something you still might do maybe when you've retired?
Definitely not college. Definitely not a collegiate level physical therapist or anything like that. That's a whole different life now. But I want to help. I want to help athletes in a different way. I want to be a coach. I want to be, a coach for fighters, a coach for just people that want to learn how to defend themselves. I want to have my own gym, and just really pass along all my knowledge if I can. A dream of mine would be to help like troubled fighters, troubled kids come to the gym and turn them into a world champion. That'd be amazing. Yeah.
What's been your favorite interaction that you've had so far with a fan?
Oh man, I've had a lot of really
Easy.
good ones, man. No, I've had a lot of really good ones. I'd say a lot of the ones where I got recognized at events, like if I went to UFC Noche, I got recognized in the fans or in the stands. I got recognized at Bare Knuckle. Was it BKFC out here in Denver? I got recognized at Whole Foods. I would say just whenever I get recognized, it's hard to pinpoint one interaction because I don't know how much I really mean to them as like their fandom to my fighterness. I don't know how much it means or how much I really have an effect on their life, but I know how much every time they tell me, like someone says like, yo, aren't you da 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 da? It's kind of like a little bit surreal, you know, because everyone has a dream as a kid of being someone that's an athlete that's recognizable.
That's
and
right.
We probably hit a point, unless it's an easy ride, where you hit a point where you're like, it's not going to happen. I'm just a nobody, you know? And then now I'm at a point where it's starting to happen. It's surreal and it feels good. So anytime that happens, if you find me, if you're a fan, you see me anywhere, I'll take a picture with you. I'll sign your tits. I'll sign your whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm cool
That's
like
awesome.
that. See what's up.
Do you listen to Do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to some podcasts, but I'd say I do audiobooks more than podcasts. Yeah.
What's the last audiobook you listened to?
Oh man, I'm trying to finish The Talent Code.
And what is the Talent Code about?
It's about that's a hard one to explain. Shout out to Raw Dog Brandon Royval. He introduced me to that book, and he got a win this past weekend.
That's
man
awesome.
Deserved it. It's a great book, really about understanding like what goes into the creating talent, and that it's not just you're not born with it. Some people are Some people are ringers, where they're born with. I'd say so. I'm trying to break it down for you in a generalization because I'm still not all the way through it, but basically that majority of people, right, are not born with the myelin or the ability to like have your brain fire on all cylinders with certain things that are like hard to do, or certain sports or certain things. But some people are born with that, right? Regardless, it takes talent to practice that. Some people, they can do less practice and they're able to be like still really good at it. They're savants at it, And then there's majority of people, you have to practice at it. You have to create that talent, that technical ability, And you can create it, and it just takes a lot of different kinds of hard actual practice. And that's what it really goes into. I think it goes into like talking about the right practice to do, the different ways of practice, and then it gives you a lot of like different studies around the world as to like, yo, look, see, this is like product of their environment here, or like what they did here and how it led to them being successful. That they weren't just like randomly born that good.
Yeah. That's awesome, and we appreciate the recommendation.
Yeah, The Talent Code. There's so many other books I could recommend, but The Talent
No,
Code.
that's good.
Really
It's a good one to start with. Yeah. What's the last random act of kindness that you experienced?
That I've done, or that someone did to me?
That you experienced.
The guy today selling me 4 tires for $20. Nah, I don't.
No, elaborate.
Nah, go. I don't know.
As easy as that might sound, that may be just what you needed at the time. And there's a lot of people going through similar things in this life. We can never underestimate how small a piece of kindness might change or help someone else.
Okay. That's a tough one, man. I'm trying to think right now.
I actually think that's a good one.
That's a hard one.
Some discounted tires. It's
nah,
good.
That's not really. He
No.
doesn't know. He's telling me it. Like, I'm not gonna count that. I would say a random act of kindness that is like the most recent, but it's
Save
not
that. Tell me about your last random act of kindness that you experienced.
This one. This was it. It's this one. It's not the biggest one, but it's the last one, and it meant a lot to me. I was at Chipotle getting a burrito bowl. And I'm obsessed with their vinaigrette dressing. I don't know why. I can't eat Chipotle without the vinaigrette dressing on the side. I'm weird. But I went there. She tells me they're all out. And I'm about to walk out. And she goes in the back, finds one last jar, runs it out to me. Says, here, I found one last one for you. Made my day. Because, I'm cutting weight. I'm training. I'm like, I just want my meal to be the way I like it, And that's the last random act of kindness. No, that's not really important.
I love it.
That's so corny, dog.
No.
That's how my brain works. If listen, your acts of kindness can be just food to me. You give me some food, I'm happy.
That's perfect.
Anything with food.
Honestly, that is perfect.
I'm trying to think, right? All right, I got to give a more important one now.
I disagree with you because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say a random act of kindness needs to be something epic. What that girl did for you was exactly what I'm talking about. That's a random act of kindness that meant way more to you than she ever knew it would.
Actually.
So I'm
I
glad
her.
that you appreciate that
my meal.
because if she hears it, it's going to mean a lot to her.
Yeah, she probably will.
But Bassil, thanks so much for coming on. Honestly, we cannot wait until your next fight. We know that with a full camp, it's not going to be left in the hands of the judges. Please come back after you're done. Talk us through your next fight. Give us another breakdown. We seriously cannot wait for the next one. Thank you for coming on the Savage Gentleman
100%.
Show.
Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, appreciate you guys having me again. I had a great time.
Absolutely.
We'll
Any
definitely do this
sponsors
again.
you want to plug? Anyone you want to thank?
First and foremost, Sheath Underwear. Best, most comfortable. Can you see that in the camera? Probably not.
It's all good. For the ladies.
Most comfortable underwear in the game. It's untouchable. You can't beat it, really. The designs, the color waves, the softness, the cloth. I can't. And it's veteran owned, and the official underwear of the UFC. get you some Sheath underwear. Use Bassil 20 for 20% off, or just catch one of the sales. They always have 50 or 40% off sales, which I don't know why, because Versace don't have that, and that's the same quality, in my opinion. But check them out, Sheath underwear. Check out my next fight. I don't know who else to thank.
Yeah, so I was going to say.
Oh, yeah,
you're-
social
you're
media.
more than welcome to break your next fight on here, although I have a feeling you already know who it is. If
I
you don't
can't.
want
I
to
have
tell
to
us
let
who it
the-
is
I have to
yet,
let the
I
UFC
totally
break it.
understand. But
I
yeah,
can't. Yeah, I can't tell. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'll let you know one time. It's coming soon. It'll be
Yeah.
announced very soon, probably within this weekend.
I love it.
because it's already signed.
I cannot wait.
But yeah, check me out on social media: Instagram Bassil_Badre, my middle name. But yeah, check me out on there. Check out my next fight. It'll be coming real soon. We'll be announcing it. Thank you to all my future sponsors, and thank you to the UFC, best company in the world. And I'm ready to show out. Let's go.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.